All right, BarNaturalPrez, talk to the people, man. Let them know what's getting ready to go down.
What's going on, YouTube? You're back with the Prez, back with good money. We're out here in Juniper Park today. And listen, today's video, I'm gonna be talking about my top 8 foods that I think everybody should be eating on the regular. So listen, we're gonna break this down. Remember guys, there's only 3 types of macronutrients, meaning food sources that supply your body with energy, right? Remember, food is energy. So any type of food is either gonna be a protein, a carb, or a fat, or it's gonna be comprised of a ratio of 1 of the 3, 2 of the 3, or all 3 of the 3, right? So remember guys, we got proteins, carbs, and fats. Proteins are always, remember, 1 gram of protein is always gonna supply your body with 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates is always gonna supply your body with 4 calories. And 1 gram of fat is always gonna supply your body with 9 calories per gram, right? So just by that, remember, 449, remember, fat on a per gram basis is always gonna provide more energy than proteins and carbs. But listen, we're not talking about energy types now. I'm just listing my top 8 foods, but we're gonna be breaking them down into their categories respectively. So we're gonna start with proteins. And as you guys know, from me talking about this many times in the past, I have nothing against people that want to avoid animal-based proteins. But in my opinion, if you're looking for optimal sources, and that's just science-based, you guys can do the research on it, you will not find better quality or more bioavailable source of protein than an animal source of protein. Remember, animal sources, red meat, eggs, fish, things like that are gonna be your #1 sources of protein. So I'm gonna break it down, top 2 protein sources for me. I was gonna label it as red meat and eggs. Both red meat and eggs are extremely high in nutrients, minerals. On a gram per gram basis, you will find more overall minerals and nutrients in a gram of steak compared to any gram of vegetables or plant-based food that you're gonna find, right? It's gonna be full of zinc, iron, vitamin B, vitamin D. Plus, it's gonna have the full amino acid ratio. If you're eating plant sources of protein, you're gonna be lacking amino acids, right? Animal sources, whether it come from red meat, eggs, poultry, fish, they're gonna supply full amino acid ratio. It means they're gonna have all 12 essential aminos. Essential meaning your body cannot make them. You have to get them from outside food sources. So if you're solely relying on vegan sources of protein, like beans or tofu or lentils, things like that, in order to get a complete array of amino acids that you would get from 1 piece of steak or 1 egg, you're gonna have to now combine multiple forms of these vegan proteins, right? So we'll go, my first top 2 choices on this top 8 list are gonna be red meat and eggs. And preferably guys, if you guys can get it, it's not gonna be that much more expensive, but it will have a bigger health effect on your body. Always look for grass-fed meat, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished meat. Look for pasture-raised organic eggs. I'm telling you guys this now. Go buy an egg in the store. Go to...
No, I want to ask you something. You said red meat. From what animal source, though?
So, typically, listen, guys, red meat, you're going to find 90% of red meat is going to come from a cow, right? That's where you're going to get your beef, your steaks. But listen, I'm a big fan of bison. Bison is it's another land animal, it's a more diesel cow, right? Bison, think buffalo. But you're gonna get the same cuts. You're gonna get ground bison from a bison the same way you could get ground meat from a cow, right? You could get a ribeye from a bison the same way you get a ribeye from a cow. You could get a strip steak same way you get a strip steak from a cow. So the cuts are the same, right? But another great source of red meat, lamb. Lamb is extremely high in omega-3s, and typically you're not gonna find lambs to be as treated as badly as normally we would find like factory farm raised cows, right? That's why I'm so diligent on looking for grass-fed, grass-finished animals, because those are animals that are treated and raised well, right? They're not mass-produced. They're living on a diet that they're supposed to live off of, and a diet, and if an animal's eating a diet that's healthy for them, as opposed to, listen, these factory farmed animals that you find in most, like, you know, supermarket stores, like regular generic supermarket stores or the delis, those are going to be coming from factory farm, where they have all these, where you see people and online all these videos of the cows being abused, the calves being ripped away from their mothers, right? That's factory farm. They're pumping these cows and these calves up with so much grains and soy to pump them up and make them grow faster to produce triple the amount of milk that they normally would be able to produce on a normal diet. Why do they do that? Because if they can produce 3 times the amount of product, they're gonna make 3 times the money, right? But they're producing unhealthy cows. That's why you have to pasteurize milk, right? Milk that comes from those cows, those cows are full of diseases, pus, tumors. You're gonna want to drink raw milk out of a cow that's sick? No way. I drink raw milk all the time, but I'm getting it from a farm that treats their animals right. These animals are outside all the time, eating the grass, getting sunshine all day. They're not being tortured. When it's time for them to die, they're sacrificed as an animal, and their whole animal is distributed as food, right? They sell it from the organs down to the bones, everything, right? So listen, guys, my top 2 sources: red meat, eggs. Now, if you're not a bit into red meat, remember, you want your protein source to come from animals. So if you don't want to eat red meat or eggs, remember, you go for fish, you go for poultry. But in my opinion, again, on a gram for gram basis, red meat will provide more nutrients and minerals than any type of poultry, meaning turkey or chicken.
Okay, so you said eggs.
Yes.
Is there a difference between the white eggs and the brown eggs?
That's what I was getting to. So listen,
okay.
Go to a supermarket. Go find yourself eggs labeled organic eggs. Organic eggs is fine. Ideally, you want to look for pasture-raised eggs. Pasture-raised means they're outside, living on the forage, in the grass all the time, eating bugs, worms, not eating grains and soy, right? Organic, they can still be feeding them organic grains and organic koi and organic soy, but ideally, you don't want a chicken to be raised off of soy or grains, right? They're supposed to be eating bugs, worms, grasses, alfalfa, things like that. That produces a healthy egg, right? So now I want you to go find an organic egg, and then I want you to go to the deli and buy an egg carton from the deli, right? With all white eggs. I want you to crack open those deli eggs, and I want you to crack open an organic pasture-raised egg. I guarantee you that organic pasture-raised egg, the yolk is gonna look like the sun. It's gonna be bright orange, a nice color. That deli egg, I guarantee you that yolk is gonna look pale, almost like a clear, ugly looking yellow, like a yellow that you would find in a crayon that's faded, right? So you're gonna see a pale egg as opposed to a nice, bright, vibrant egg, right? Guarantee you, go look for an organic egg compared to a deli factory farmed egg. Look, just crack it open. You're gonna see the difference just in color of the yolk alone.
What about the, like I said, in the color, the brown egg and the white egg? Any difference?
You're gonna find, so white eggs just means that they're bleaching the shells, right? So typically, all organic eggs are gonna come brown, right? Because they're not messing with it. But some people in their heads, they think brown looks bad, so they literally bleach the eggs white to give them that white colored shell, right? So you ever heard of Dr. Seuss green eggs and ham? There's a real thing, it's a green egg, right? Those comes from a different type of chicken. They're called Araucana chickens. They produce a shell that's green, like a pastel color. Things like you see like on Easter, when you see kids coloring Easter eggs into that light green, those green colors. Listen, you get green eggs, blue eggs, like beige eggs. They're all coming from different types of chickens. Like, it's called the Araucana chicken. They produce a greenish shell, and again, those are going to be higher quality chickens usually. So listen, you could get Araucana, A-R-A-U-C-A.
Google that, y'all.
A-R-A-U-C-A-N-A. I'm pretty sure that's how I spelled it, right? Okay. So Google that Araucana eggs. You can see they're going to produce almost looks like eggs that you would find kids coloring on Easter, right? Colorful eggs. Really, really good eggs for you. So again, remember, usually you're gonna see a white shell egg, that means it was bleached. That means they do it to market it better. Oh, white, everyone thinks it's a pure egg. No, but remember, those are factory farmed animals. And sometimes you'll see in the shell, they'll be stamped with like a stamp of like the ranch it came from or wherever it came from, right? All right, so let's go on. So we got our main 2 protein sources. And like I said, if you're not into red meat or eggs, remember, in my opinion, you want to keep the animal sources as your main source of protein. So you could opt for, again, salmon if you want, cod. Any type of fish is going to be high in protein. You could go for a poultry, you go for a chicken, you go for a turkey breast, right? Any one of them are going to be better than any type of vegan source that you can find. So remember, we're going top 8, and I'm going to list 1 and 2 as red meat and eggs. So now let's move down the line. Let's go to some carb sources. So I'm going to be going over 4 different carb sources. So carbs are going to take up 4 out of the 8 spots, because I'm going to be talking about starches, and then I'm going to be talking about more cruciferous vegetables, meaning green leafy vegetables, right? In my opinion. So let's start with starches, and I'll explain to you when I would use starches, right? So starches typically are going to be a great energy source. If you're out here doing high intensity training, a lot of reps and sets, right? 50, 100 type training, 5-minute drills. The body's primarily source of fuel that's going to want to burn off is glycogen, right? Now you could get glycogen from all carbs that whether you eat, whether it come from white bread, whether it come from sweet potato, whether it come from white rice, whether it come from broccoli, whether it come from kale, whether it come from a strawberry, a banana. When it digests in your body, it's going to be broken down into glucose, right? All depends on the source of the carbohydrate, how fast it breaks down in the body, right? So typically, you would have, you've heard of complex carbs, and then complex carbs, and then you have simple carbs. Simple carbs would be more white bread, table sugar, things that hit the bloodstream and they raise the insulin fast, right? They'll give you a quick energy spike, but then you usually get a crash after, right? Then you have more complex carbs, such as sweet potatoes and your rices, right? And I'm not gonna talk about brown rice, white rice. I'm gonna tell you this right now, white rice over brown rice every day. Why? You would feed an infant white rice, you wouldn't feed an infant brown rice. One, white rice is a lot easier to digest. Brown rice has a lot more fiber in it, right? It's also that white rice is stripped of the fiber basically, but white rice is a lot easier on the stomach. Again, like I said, I'm talking about, in my opinion, I think you should always eat foods that are going to be the easiest to absorb. There's nothing really wrong with brown rice, but if you eat too much of it, it is known to cause bloating in people. Why? Because it does have a high fiber intake. Why do you think brown rice is brown? For that reason. It's also high in arsenic. The rice doesn't really want to be eaten. That fiber does not break down in the body, right? So you eat it and it just expels out. White rice, you're going to eat it, it's going to digest easily in the body. It's going to cause a steady supply of glucose. It's not going to spike the insulin too fast. Even though people might consider it a simple carb, as opposed to a complex carb, white rice will supply slower energy as opposed to than white bread or table sugar. So I'm going to go my top 2 starches. Now remember, I would choose to eat starches prior to a high intensity exercise session, right? That's going to be your main body source of fuel for that session. When I say high intensity, I mean when you're breaking down a lot of glycogen. Think about doing a lot of repetitions that are hard. Now, if you're just going to do 1 rep maxes, static holds, you're not going to be breaking down that much glycogen. You won't really need to fuel your body with a carb source. If you guys want to tap into more of that, watch the previous video me and George did when I talked about the types of food you should be eating depending on the training that you're getting into. But we're not going to get into that today. That's in the last previous video. Watch it a few videos back. If you guys want to know the best type of foods to fuel the specific type of training that you're going into, whether it be reps and sets, static holds, skill work, endurance work, and post-workout recovery, check out that video. So I'll just go again. My two starch sources, favorite starch sources that I would eat on the reg: sweet potato and white rice. Now, on days when I don't want to eat as much starch, I'm never a person to eliminate a calorie or a macronutrient in full, pretty much. I've done keto, I've done low carb, but I don't ever find the point to do it long term, right? So if a day I don't want to eat too much starch, then I feel like having more green vegetables. And I try to at least have 1 meal a day with a green vegetable in it. I'm not very big on having vegetables in every meal, because again, vegetables are known to cause bloating and gas in people. Remember, vegetables are just plants that really don't want to be eaten. That's why you have to cook them.
Before you get to the vegetables, why sweet potatoes instead of the white potatoes?
Okay, so that's just a preference. I have nothing against white potatoes either, but for digestibility preferences, sweet potatoes digest better for me. White potatoes, again, people might call them more of a simple type of carb source. They may think they break down faster than a sweet potato, and they may break down a little faster than a sweet potato, but it's not going to, white potatoes are still not going to cause a spike in the insulin the same way that white bread or just regular sugar or anything sweet like that would, right? Any type of potato source is going to be fine. And let me tell you one more thing about potatoes, right? Whether it's a sweet potato or white potato, once you cook a potato once and let it cool, say you bake a 10-ounce potato, right? You want to eat 5 ounces at lunchtime, and then you want to have 5 ounces at dinner, right? Once that potato cools off, it builds up what's called a digestive resistant starch. So it actually makes, regardless of the potato, once that potato cools and then you try to eat it again, even if you heat it up, that starch stays present, and that digestive resistant starch makes it even harder to break down in the body, so it slows down the digestive process even more, adding to almost more of like a fiber intake of the carbohydrate itself. So if you guys want to check that out, just Google digestive resistant starch, and you're going to learn that once you heat and cool, and that goes for rice as well. If you heat and cool a starch, like a potato or rice, once you eat it, you cook it for the first time, and you leave some to the side, and it cools off. Once it cools off, it starts building up what's called the digestive resistant starch. Now listen, I don't know the process of how it happens, but I know it happens, and I know that it makes the starch more resistant to break down, so it will break down even slower in the body. So, my starches that I will say for me: sweet potato and white rice. I don't mess with no brown rice. Don't mess with it at all. If I have a choice of rice, it's always white rice.
What about wild rice? That's what I mess with.
I mean, wild rice is cool too. What do you get, like the black wild rice?
Yeah, the black wild rice.
I have nothing wrong with the wild rice as well. But again, I know that they're higher in fiber than compared to white rice. And remember, listen, fiber is in everything, guys. You don't really need that much fiber. Fiber is just an indigestible form of a carbohydrate, right? Your body doesn't break down fiber. You eat it and it goes right out, expels out, right? So it's basically there to clean the colon out. But if you've got a clean and healthy digestive system and you're eating clean food, you don't really got to worry about that. 6 grams of fiber that you're gonna get for a serving of rice, right? In my opinion.
Okay.
So now let's go on to some cruciferous vegetables. Remember, vegetables are still gonna be carb sources. They're still gonna break down into body as glucose the same way white bread does, the same way a potato does, the same way white rice does, right? But the difference is with vegetables, they're gonna be a lot higher in fiber as opposed to glucose in the body, right? So my 2 favorite vegetable sources, cruciferous vegetable sources, are asparagus, and I'm gonna say spinach, and then I'll even put broccoli and spinach up there together. But if it's gonna be 1-2, it's asparagus and spinach. Reason why: digestibility, right? Broccoli, that cruciferous head, those heads for me, sometimes too much broccoli could cause a little bit of bloating in my stomach. That asparagus, I could break down really easy. And a little tip: you guys want to cut a little bit of fiber out and make it a little more digestible. The roots of it are where the most fiber is. That's like usually the hardest part to chew. Think about chewing on celery. That's pretty much what the bottom of an asparagus stalk feels like, right? So cut the tips off. You only got to eat like from the top 75% of the stalk, and it's gonna break down your body really easily. Asparagus is gonna be high in all vitamin K, A, iron. Same thing as spinach, guys. Spinach, really easy to digest. And listen, you guys know if you watch my previous videos, my diet videos, spinach digests pretty easy. Raw, I do it in a shake all the time. Or if I'm gonna cook it, I just saute it up a little bit, some olive oil, salt, pepper, and literally cook it. Then, listen, if you get a whole bag of spinach like this, a whole bag of spinach, and you saute it, you're gonna get this much spinach, right? So the volume for spinach, that you can eat a whole bag of spinach, and when you saute it and cook it down, you're gonna be intaking a lot of fiber, but it's just gonna be so dense, right? As opposed to now a whole bag of spinach raw, if you were to eat a whole spinach salad raw, right? It's gonna be a lot harder and a lot more filling than it would be as if you cook it, right? Because the volume of food is gonna be a lot greater. You're gonna get the same amount of nutrients in it if you cook it down. So I prefer to either have it in a shake, or I prefer to cook it down, just because again, it's the same amount of food, just easier to take in. So those are my, hold on, let me just answer this text real quick. So those are my top 2 cruciferous or green vegetables. Remember, we went through proteins and carbs, starches, sweet potato, and white rice. Cruciferous vegetables for me, asparagus and spinach. Broccoli is good too, but again, you guys can do broccoli, you guys can do kale, you guys can do Brussels sprouts. Remember, these are gonna be, if you guys don't have a workout where if you say you guys don't, say for me, for instance, I didn't train, it was an off day for me. Most of my meals would be meat and vegetable based as opposed to meat and starch based, right? Because I tend to keep the starches higher on the days where I'm gonna utilize them more efficiently for energy, right? But that's how you teach your body to utilize nutrients more efficiently. Feed it the fuel that it needs when it's gonna perform, right? But if you're just resting, there's really no need to keep giving your body energy fuel, continuous carb sources for energy, right? Because you're not gonna be breaking it down. That's when the carbs start getting stored as body fat. But if you give your body a reason to use them and then replenish with them, it's gonna become a lot more efficient at it when you're doing that type of training. So we went through 6 so far. We hit red meat, eggs. We hit sweet potato, white rice. We hit asparagus, we hit spinach. We're gonna go 7 and 8 now. So we're gonna go into some fruits now. Okay, so we're gonna classify a ton of fruit into one category, and we're gonna go berries. Why do I choose berries? Because berries are very high in antioxidants. Think about the colors in berries, guys. You got blueberries, you got strawberries, you got raspberries, you got blackberries. They're very vibrant, dark colors, right? Those vibrant colors, those are known to have, the darker the color, the more antioxidants in it, right? Think about acai berries, right? Purple. All these types of berries are extremely low calorie. They're also gonna be carb sources. And again, you can eat a lot of volume of these berries, very low calorie. And so let me just give you guys a tip. The lowest calorie berry, which you guys probably didn't know this, is gonna be a strawberry. If we're comparing blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries are lower calorie on a gram per gram basis than the rest. Why? Because they contain more water than blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries together, right? So strawberries will hold a little more water weight in them, and they'll be a little lower in calories. But for the number 1 fruits, we're just gonna classify all berries. And I have berries every day. That's my favorite carb source to eat in the morning. So in the mornings, as you guys know, typically my breakfast consists of, regardless of the training day, because I usually have 2 meals prior to training. My first meal of the day is always more protein and fat based, so I keep my body running off of more fat than opposed to starches. So I'll usually do eggs, maybe a turkey bacon or bacon, a little bit of yogurt as of late. You guys know bone broth, very big on it in the morning, sauerkraut, and then when I want a little bit of carbs, remember sauerkraut's a carb source as well, gives me like 3 grams of carbs. It's nothing. It's all fiber, all basically for a probiotic reason. That's why we're not talking about that. Berries in the morning is my pretty much basic carb source. I have a cup of blueberries, a cup of raspberries, a cup of blackberries, or strawberries every morning with my breakfast. So now we got berries, and then we're gonna go into another fruit that you guys might think not even know it's a fruit, and we're gonna go avocado. Avocado, why? Avocado is, why is it a fruit? Because it has a seed. Remember, fruits have seeds and pits or whatever. Many people think it's a vegetable. It's actually considered a fruit. So we're gonna go number 8 on the list at avocado, and that's gonna be one of my favorite fat sources, right? So again, typically on days when I'm lowering the starches, because remember, starches are gonna be higher in calories than a cruciferous vegetable, right? So let's just say we got 8 ounces of sweet potato and 8 ounces of broccoli, right? Or 8 ounces of asparagus and 8 ounces of sweet potato. The sweet potato is probably gonna be closer to around 200, 250 calories, 8 ounces. Now I got 8 ounces of broccoli or 8 ounces of spinach, probably gonna be closer to 60, 70 calories. So in order to make up those calories, right, I'm gonna have to increase another macronutrient. Remember, it's either protein, carbs, or fats. The way I do it, usually when I have lower carbs, lower starches in the diet to make up for those calories, that's when I'll start eating a little higher fats. So typically that's when I'll have a little fattier pieces of meat. Maybe I'll have a ribeye as opposed to a filet. Maybe I'll have 85-15 grass-fed beef as opposed to 90-10 or 93-7, right? So if the leaner the cuts of, when I'm eating the leaner red meat, I'm usually pairing it more with starches. When I'm eating more cruciferous vegetables, I'm usually pairing it more with fattier meats or another fat source. So typically it's gonna be an avocado on the side, but another great fat source that we're just gonna keep adding to the list. Remember, we're gonna classify number 7 and 8. We got berries, and then they're gonna be fruits, right? And then we're gonna have avocados, but we also got olive oil. Olive oil is another great fat source that you guys could utilize as well. Coconut oil, all great fat sources that you guys could add into your diet if you're looking to fulfill a gap. So remember, like I said, if I'm eating less starches, that means in general something's going to be lacking in calories. So instead of keeping me, and so I don't like to stay in a deficit unless there's a reason for me to be in a deficit, right? And right now I'm actually been eating in a surplus. So if I'm not eating those starches and I got to get those calories up, instead of eating more protein and more red meat, I could just, again, add a fat source, add an avocado. Remember, fat's always going to supply more calories per gram than carbs and protein. So to get those calories up, I could just get an avocado, get a good 100 to 200 calories from the avocado. So now if I have a 250 calorie sweet potato and a 50 calorie plate of spinach, I gotta make up 200 calories, all right? I'm gonna eat 200 calories of avocado. And avocado is not just gonna be fat, it is gonna supply a little bit of carbohydrates as well, because there is fiber in avocado, as well as I think maybe 1 gram of protein. So you guys gotta learn. First thing first, I just wanna say, if you guys have a goal, whether it's gain weight or lose weight, find out your calories. Find out your maintenance calories. And if you guys wanna find a tool to help you do that, you could check out my website, BarNaturalFitness.com/calculator. I have a free total daily energy expenditure calculator on there that will determine your maintenance calories. It'll also determine the calories you need if you want to bulk or cut. But I recommend everybody, when they go on the calculator or any fitness calculator, don't tell the calculator what your goal is. Tell the calculator that your goal is just to maintain weight. Because once you tell it you want to maintain weight, it's just going to give you your maintenance calories. And that's what the most important number is. You guys got to know what your maintenance calories are, meaning what your calories are at right now. Meaning, if you didn't want to change, if you didn't want to lose weight, if you didn't want to gain weight, and you wanted to just stay the way you were, you would have to eat that amount of calories. So once you know that number, it's very easy to manipulate the calories, right? So if you want to lose weight, you're going to deduct about 200 to maybe 500 calories, depending on how much you want to lose or how much you got to lose. You're going to deduct it from that number. If you want to gain weight, you're going to add maybe 200 to 500 calories, again, depending on how much weight you want to gain and how fast. And then all you got to do, guys, is figure out your protein intake, which should stay around 1 gram per pound of body weight. So remember, guys, if you weigh 165 pounds, you want to take in around 165 grams of protein. So now if you're going to do the math on that, right? So let's just give a quick example before we end this video. Let's just say person A is eating a 2,000 calorie diet, right? 2,000 calorie is his goal calories for him to cut down. So let's say his maintenance was 2,300. So he's going on a 2,000 calorie diet, which is a 300 calorie deficit, right? So let me just give you this knowledge real quick. First thing you guys want to determine, is how much protein you got to take in a day. So let's just say person A is 165 pounds and he wants to eat 2,000 calories a day. So the first thing he's got to do is determine how much protein he's got to eat. So he's 165 pounds. He's going to eat 165 grams of protein. So now all you got to do, guys, you guys are going to go on your calculator and you're going to go 165. Remember, you weigh 165 pounds, so you want to eat 165 grams of protein. And remember, 1 gram of protein is worth 4 calories. So you do 165 times 4. So out of his 2,000 calories, 660 of them are going to be coming from protein, right? So now look, guys, you do 2,000 minus 660. That leaves 1,340 calories left, right? So all you got to do now is split that 1,340 calories between fats and carbs, however you want to do it. If you have a training day, keep the majority of those calories to carbohydrates. If you have more of a rest day, keep the majority of those calories to higher fat. And it's that simple. All you got to do is find out your protein number, and then you determine how much protein you have to have a day, find out how many calories that gives you, and then figure out the remaining calories and break that down into carbs and fats, guys. And listen, let's go through the list one more time. Top 8, even though I gave you more, my favorite top 8 that I would eat on a regular basis: eggs, grass-fed red meat. Then we got sweet potato, white rice. Then we got spinach, preferably sauteed with a little bit of olive oil. And we got asparagus. Then we have our berries, which are gonna be any type of berry: blueberry, blackberry, strawberry, raspberry, acai berry. And then we got our fruit fat source, again, coconut oil, avocados, and then we could also go to olive oil, things like that, right? So top 8 foods that you guys should be eating. And again, guys, base your foods on what you're going through to the day, right? So it doesn't have to be the same thing every day. If you have if you're training harder that day, keep the starches higher, keep the fats lower. If you have more of an off day or just a day where you're doing more endurance or cardio, keep the fats higher, keep the carbs lower. Just remember, guys, if you're breaking down muscle, and you don't break down muscle jumping rope, you don't break down muscle going on jogs, you don't break down muscle going for walks on the treadmill, right? You break down muscle when you're hitting reps and sets under a load with resistance, right? Whether that be body weight sets or with external load. If you're doing workouts like that, that's when you want to keep the starches and the carbs a little higher. And if you're not doing that, you keep the fats a little higher. Protein should stay consistent, 1 gram per pound of body weight. And listen, if you're a vegan or don't eat meat, don't matter. Get the protein in, 1 gram per pound of body weight. And if that's the case for you, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, not eating the red meat, as you eat protein, you guys are also going to be increasing your fats and carbs too, because vegan sources aren't just complete proteins, right? So if you look at meat, you're never going to have carbs in meat, right? You're never going to have carbs in chicken. You're never going to have carbs in fish. But you will have carbs in beans. You will have carbs in peanut butter. You will have carbs in lentils. So those type of foods are going to combine more carbs and protein as opposed to fats and protein. So just be aware of that, guys. I hope this gave you guys a little insight of my top 8 foods. And even though I gave you a little more broader spectrum, I hope it helped you guys out and taught you guys when you guys should focus on eating such macronutrients, right? So like always, guys, I appreciate the support. Hope this video helped you out. And like always, guys, leave a comment. You got a question, I'll get back to you in the comment section. Really appreciate support. Share the video, helps the algorithm. Like the video, helps the algorithm out. Check out my page, BarNaturals. Check me out on BarNaturalPrez on Instagram. We got the merch on. You already know. You can check out Good Money's merch. His link is in the bio. All my stuff's available on my website, BarNaturalFitness.com. And like always, guys, peace out. BarNaturals.
Hit that. Gloves is on.